Welcome to another rendition of the How Dead Sports Podcast. This is Paul Connor along with Austin. Been a while, buddy. How are
Yeah.
things?
Oh, it things are all right.
Life
Just
li life is lifing.
life is definitely life, and sleep is hard to come by nowadays.
Yeah, all good, all good. Hey, before we get started, I have to give a special shout out before we get started with our show. So my daughter had a volleyball tournament this past weekend in Louisville. And actually, my first shout out goes to my cousin Lisa, her boyfriend, for showing us around Louisville. Have you been to Louisville?
I haven't been to Louisville in about 14 years.
Man, look, that downtown is nice. Downtown is really nice. We had a chance to go by a couple of places. Got a couple of bourbon flights.
Ooh,
Had some whiskey that was about 130 proof.
ooh,
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, and then we went to this high-end steak place called Steak and Bourbon. And probably the greatest ribeye I've ever had.
ooh. That's a tough one.
It- Dude, it was one of those places where the ribeye, they bring out your food, especially if you order a steak. They will sit up here and stand next to you and have you and want you to cut it right in front of them to make sure it's to your liking. If not, you can send it back.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's how I know it was going to be good. And I was like, oh man. And then that first bite, especially with the garlic butter on top of it.
And the funniest thing about it is it was probably cook like when it comes to those high-end steak restaurants with stuff like that, it's the simplest ingredients. It was garlic butter and salt that went on that steak, and it's one of the best you've ever had.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm sitting up there like I'm like, oh my God, it's so good. I mean, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't have a bad meal. I didn't have a bad drink. You know, you know, the volleyball was good too. Shout out to my daughter's team for doing as well as they did. I think they finished, I think, ninth out of 63 teams. So
That's real good.
yeah, so it was pretty awesome to see. So, and then shout out to the parents of Pipeline as well for them being pretty cool and you know sharing some drinks with the dads.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so it's pretty awesome, pretty awesome. All right, since the last time you and I talked, which was probably I think last Monday when news came down that the Bulls were moving off of Arturas Con
AK.
yeah, Arturas Connor Shovis and Mark Eversley. The next day, Michael Reinsdorf spoke. And my first thoughts, and then we'll pass it over to you, is that I don't necessarily think that he was going to win this press conference.
No.
And part of the reason, well, actually, I have four reasons why. One, he's a Reinsdorf.
So he's immediately not trusted.
He's immediately not trusted. Actually, if you want to put another caveat to that, he's an owner within Chicago, and most owners in this city are not trusted.
Yeah, I think McCaskey just barely made their way out of that list over the last year. Other than that, for the last 50,
Yeah,
hasn't been trusted.
yeah, and then on top of that, I think fans wanted to hear three things coming from this press conference. Number one, they wanted to hear clean slate. Billy Donovan's gone to, and then uh, tank and sell the team. You didn't hear any of those things, so therefore, Bulls fans don't like what he had to say.
Well, it it would be really hard for him to put actual determination on anything like that. Like uh when it comes to Billy Donovan, like with that, it's still just a waiting game. You still got to see how he wants to play things, how he wants to do things, and he hasn't. And if he hasn't made that decision, I think he has earned that right to take the time to be able to make his decision. I mean, hell, the season just ended.
Yeah, I would say that at least once again, this is my opinion that when Michael Reinsdorf said what he said about Billy and no incoming GM candidate if they don't want Billy, maybe don't want them to be the GM of the Bulls or be in charge of basketball ops for the Bulls. I know fans um, didn't necessarily like that in terms of how he said it. I, I took a different approach in terms of, maybe they're using the media as negotiation and just to show Billy how much they truly admire, how much they want him to still be with the organization. Um, it could be that the Reinsdorfs already know where Billy's leaning towards, and maybe that was just another way for them to kind of, hey, we understand, but we this is how much we value you, is that, you know, that the next GM is going to have to inherit you. So,
Yes.
that's my thought on it. I know that, some of the stuff that I listen to or read, it's at least right now, it's, a lot of Bulls fans are not really happy with that statement. But, there is precedent for this to work. If a GM comes on board and inherits a head coach, I mean, the Minnesota Timberwolves right now are, are in the playoffs and actually have been to back-to-back Western Conference Finals with that kind of, pairing. So it can work. I think fans are just at a point where um, they want to see something new. And like I said in the beginning, you're just not it, anything short of them selling the team. You wasn't gonna he wasn't gonna come out on top.
Well, I mean, the sole reason it works for a team like Minnesota is because they have a player like Anthony Edwards, who is arguably a top four in the league, definitely top five in the league. And the
I'll
Bulls
go
haven't
top
had
seven.
one of the top players in the league.
There we go.
And the Bulls really haven't had one of those consistently, especially at as young of an age as Anthony Edwards, since Derrick Rose before his knees started to explode. And at that time, again, the Bulls were one of the best teams in the league. I mean, the year that uh, Derrick Rose tore his ACL for the first time, they were the first seed in the playoffs. They ended up winning that first round matchup, not winning the second because obviously Derrick Rose gets injured in the first round. But they had one of the best players in the league. Anthony Edwards is one of the best players in the league. That's why a team like Minnesota, in the interesting position that they are still able to play as well as they are because they have that real talent. The Bulls haven't had that talent in a very long time. I
That
say I say Derrick Rose specifically because of his age too, because I think Anthony Edwards is just what 22,
no, he's a little older
21.
than that. He's about 25, 26. He's about 25, 26.
Still again on the much younger side where I mean you could argue DeMar back in say 2021, but he was already in his 30s. He was in his
24. Anthony Edwards is 24.
okay, but again, super young. When we got DeMar and we had him playing as well as he was 32, 33.
Yeah.
And you get the 1, 2 really, really good years out of him, and then he was just a very solid player, which is why they ended up moving off of him about 2 years too late. But that's kind of why that works out for them. Um, and then with all the other stuff, doing it a day after you fire everybody and not having a concrete plan set, it was always doomed to fail. It was a search. It's the GM search. It's the potential head coaching search, and they went into it without a concrete plan or concrete way that they were going to go about this.
Are we talking about the GM firing?
Yeah,
Okay. No, I no that I do agree with. I was actually talking to a buddy of mine today about how I felt like, if you're going to do this, you should be making some back channel kind of talks, which is why some of the things that he said, even though there was a lot that he said that I liked, there were some things in particular when when I forget what reporter asked him about, about when did he know he wanted to make this decision. He said, yeah, a couple of months ago. I was like, yeah, that's kind of, that's a year or some change too late. So but at that moment, like even when you start thinking about it, like even if you start thinking about making a change, you should be talking to folks, say, hey, I'm thinking about making this change. Who's out there that would take this job? Like how attractive is this job? And I think you and I talked about this before, that this is still an attractive job, regardless of whether Billy Donovan is here or not. If Billy Donovan is here, it's still an attractive job. Still an attractive job,
it's it definitely still has its pluses.
yeah, and one of the things that I will always maintain is that, well, number one, fans need to get out of this notion of tanking. That stop. It's I hate it. I'm happy that the league is getting ready to do some changes to the draft lottery. Did you hear like this whole draft lottery scenario that's gaining steam in terms of what they wanted to do?
Not the newest one, so please enlighten me.
So apparently, so you obviously you have I think it's your teams that make the playoffs.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so you have your teams that make the playoffs, but those ones who don't make the playoffs, so your bottom teams, including the ones that make the play in, they all go into the lottery. So it's like a
Okay.
16 or an 18 team lottery, and and your top, or I'm sorry, or your bottom teams, um, they get the same odds. And
So it's essentially expanding the pool.
it's basically expanding the pool to include those play-in teams, and then also like those bottom teams that are in like the top, let's say top. Well, I keep saying top eight. Though at those bottom eight teams, they get the same lottery odds,
Okay.
instead of having the bottom four teams, or the four teams with the worst record go at 14%. Everyone gets the same odds within, 1 through 8, and then those play-in teams, um, they split 20% odds, I believe.
So the biggest thing is basically just expanding the pool
You're
and expanding the uh early draft percentages for like the number one pick within, instead of it being four, it's eight. And instead of it being the 14 or 15 team lottery, you're expanding it to, like you said, the 18 or whatever.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I actually like it because you're still putting an emphasis on being competitive. And if for any reason you don't make the playoffs, you still have an opportunity to get one of those picks. And especially let's say they had this draft lottery this year for this particular draft that's supposed to be loaded. You can still get in my opinion, a franchise defining player within one of those picks, especially if you pick within the top 14. So that's why for me, I like that because it still pushes for you to be competitive instead of tanking. And then on top of that, you can get one of those players and still change your fortune.
Yeah, it makes it a little more palatable, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Um, sorry. Breaking news, former Chicago Bull Kobe White shoots up a prayer from deep to tie the game with Charlotte and Miami going into overtime in the playing game tonight.
Yeah, when I was before we got on, I was looking at it and um they um they were down by four because Miami went on a 12-0 run. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like if you want to find yourself another Kobe White, in which there is a guy in this draft who is a much better version of Kobe White with better defense than Brandon Burries, then you can do that. Oh, by the way, if you're listening to this show, which I hope you are, I hope you're rooting for the Portland Trailblazers tonight because
Absolutely.
because the Trailblazers win, that means the Bulls get the 15 pick in the draft.
Absolutely. Um, so it would be very fantastic for something like that to happen. The only downside of that I could be is that if you get like a generationally bad team, like, you know, if you get just a very, very bad team and if you need that like number one pick to try to like truly alter your franchise. And again, in a draft like this one upcoming is a bad example because there are so many different prospects that can go in that top, like you said, specifically the top four could be interchangeable. And then from five to you said about 14, all of those can be interchangeable. Not necessarily this draft, but say in other drafts where it's a lot more top heavy. If you get a generational stinker of a team and you pull terrible odds, that's also just going to set back your franchise for a long time. It's a great idea. It's a great start, but there's you're never going to be able to get it perfect.
Well, and that's why tanking in a lottery system just doesn't work out.
That's
I,
true.
unless you do it like baseball, where if you had the number one pick in one year, you don't get an opportunity even you automatically pick 10th the following year.
That's true. That's definitely true. It's going to be something that they'll have to play with for a couple of years to truly get it on its way. But it's definitely a better place to be at than where they're at right now.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, they're supposed to vote on that fairly soon, especially for next year. And I do expect that to pass, just for the simple fact that, you're trying to curtail some really bad basketball. I was talking to my buddy and he was saying like, the second half of the season was just bad because teams were taking. I was just kind of like, you can start even before the All-Star break.
Yeah,
That teams were sitting out players just because of, trying to uh, get their draft stock up.
yeah. I mean, and the All-Star break happens early February. We're
Yeah.
talking over 2 months ago. I mean,
So
there's a lot of basketball in between that.
yeah.
It's really insane.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I mean, you're talking about this season where, it started out really good with a 5-0, 6-1 record, and then injuries happened, and then bad basketball happened, and I will maintain that if the Bulls would have kind of flipped their record in terms of bad teams, they probably wouldn't made these choices. But they were beating really good teams and crapping the bed against shitty teams, and then all of a sudden, yeah, they're making changes because guess where that puts you? If you're beating if you're beating good teams at a high clip, and you're losing to shitty teams at that same rate, guess what you are? You're a middling team.
Just mid.
Yeah. So
It,
so I will give AK credit for what he tried to do at the deadline. I just didn't like uh the two deals towards the end. Um, with Kobe White and especially for Ayo DeSumo, even though I do like Leonard Miller.
okay.
He
All right.
showed me something. He showed me something. I do like Leonard Miller.
Well, there's definitely a start because they went out and traded for 73 different guards. So you have definitely your choice to litter. And I feel like a lot of the trades that they did make, they brought in a lot of younger talent to try to see what they could salvage and what they would prefer to have on the team.
Yeah.
So
And, and then
it's
obviously
sucked.
the yeah, and then obviously the Jay Nice situation didn't help either because I thought that was the guy that they would probably look at the most because former lottery pick and you still had his rights or his restricted rights. So, they could have done that, but unfortunately he went cuckoo for Jesus.
Well, it's the, if you recall, that's the person I said that I was most excited about.
Yeah.
But, you know, that was just in hindsight, maybe not the best call. But it all leads to um hopefully we could see a promising future for the Bulls. Maybe next year we go back into, competing for a play-in spot. This is going to take
Yeah, it's funny if you go to any kind of Reddit or any kind of Discord, there's fans that are kind of fighting over like the best course of action. We won't know the best course of action until a general manager is hired and then what he because he has to sell his vision to ownership and we don't know what ownership, what their demands are. It could be okay, yeah, we understand we need to get out of the situation, but you know, what's your plan? And I will always maintain that, you know, you don't need to tank, draft well, spend money in player development, use your assets wisely, get a good coaching staff, and you can compete. Because
absolutely
because I did some research and I think since LeBron's been in the league since 2003, so we're talking about 23 years. There's not that many top five draft picks that led their team to to NBA championships. There's not that many. There's
at the very least not on their original team.
That's my point. That's
Yeah.
my point. And LeBron had to go back to get his title.
Yeah. I mean, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Because I mean, you look at when Golden State was on top, you know, Steph Curry was there. They originally picked him in the draft, but he was number 9. Um,
You think about Giannis. Giannis was the top 15 pick. I think Giannis was picked 14 or 15.
I think it was 14 or something.
Yeah,
But you specifically said top 5.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, that just goes to show you if you can get somebody who's really good and you can develop and he wants to develop and you get pieces around him, yeah, you can win a championship.
And Giannis is that perfect player because early when they first originally drafted him, he was not even close to the player that he is today.
No,
And that's down to player development.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and then you're talking about now the jury's still out on guys like um like Wemby, Anthony Edwards, players like that. But if you look at the Thunder, Shell SGA, number one, wasn't even an original draft pick of OKC.
Nope.
And SGA was picked 11th. I think he was picked 11th by the Clippers.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
So if your front office can identify a talent and you can trade for said talent, which goes to another way of winning a championship, because they've had other multiple picks, and I don't think if you take SG, I think if you take SGA off that team, they don't win a title.
Well, no, no, not at all.
So it
You
goes
take
back
guys
to it goes back to my point that there's more than one way to actually win a cha-
build the
you know
team.
build a team and win a championship. Just a matter how much you want to do it. Once again, s spend the money on player development, spend the money on your staff. Don't don't be cheap with that. I don't care about you paying the luxury tax. Actually, if in today's NBA, you're going to have to pay the luxury tax in order to keep your team around, or you need to draft well and to replace those. And honestly, that's what OKC is going to have to do eventually because they're going to have to make some decisions on some folks.
And the biggest one will be who do they pay? Uh, J Dub or Chet? Because it's going to be a decision right there. I can almost guarantee you that. And I'm pretty sure they're more happy with shelling out the money to go get, or not go get, but to keep Chet Holmgren instead of paying J Dub.
Right.
But
So,
again, you go back to that. Even without SGA, I still believe the Thunder are a top three team in the West because they have drafted well and developed well.
right.
You know,
So,
the Thunder are a great example of a modern team finding a modern way to win basketball.
yeah. Yeah, and you get to a certain point where you can trade for a guy like Alex Caruso, who's was the final pin in terms of their championships, then you get stuff like that. And let's not look, Josh Giddey isn't a bad basketball player. I think Josh Giddey's pretty good. It's just that for what they wanted in OKC, he wasn't the lead guard anymore. SGA took over. And if that's not a knock on Giddey, it's just the reality of the situation.
It's not that Josh Giddey is bad; it's that SGA became that good,
Yeah. Yeah, SGA became that dude. That
and
that's
he is
that's it.
going to be the back-to-back MVP.
Did he make the 65 game threshold?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
he made it. I think technically Jokic made it, and I think technically Wemby did too.
What do you think of that rule, by the way?
It's good and bad. It's again, it's one that they're going to have to play with. It is definitely one they're going to have to play with.
I think the spirit of the rule was fine in terms of not having teams do any load management, but it sucks for when like Kay Cunningham won't be mentioned at any kind of awards, and because he missed so many games because of injury, because of a legit injury, not load management, legit injury. He
I
won't
mean,
be able to do any of that.
you're looking at what should be an All NBA first teamer not going to be able to make it because of the fact that he was out for like a month and a half.
Yeah, the dude had a collapsed lung. That's
Like,
not that's not load management.
I, no, not at
I
all.
mean, unless I'm wrong. I don't know, but that's not load management. That you had a legit injury where your lung collapsed.
Well, from an outsider looking in, I personally have never had a lung collapse. You know,
Me
could be a
neither.
walk in the park, but I really don't believe so.
Yeah,
I,
so no,
it,
I mean, yeah, like you said, it's something that they're gonna have to look at and revise. I just kind of wish that, there'll be some, some kind of revisions in terms of that, because the spirit of the rule is fine. I understand why they did it, but now you're talking about playing with dudes' money because a
playing with
lot
their
of those,
money, playing
yeah,
with their legacy.
yeah, because a lot of those incentives are tied to first team all NBA. First team this, for first team defense, or MVP votes, or MVP in general. And
Just the nod. Yeah.
yeah, and you're talking about a guy who, going from who can have a contract. Actually, you're talking about a person who can miss out anywhere between 150 and $200 million.
I mean, again, the perfect one is Cade. He had, when he came into the league as the number one pick, he was thought he was going to change Detroit. Those first couple years, it did not work at all. He had to work on his game. He had to work on his approach. He had to completely change his play style and ended up turning into the player he is today in one of the best basketball players in the league. And he's not going to get any recognition on it or anything like that, which is, again, not only going to mess with his money, but it's also going to mess with his legacy because you're looking at a guy who, at the very least, deserved all NBA nods, but who could have legitimately been for the first time in his career a first team all NBA guy. And it's not going to happen because of that rule.
Yeah, he missed out on money, and I mean, you couldn't make a an exception for a guy who's the best player on the best team in the East.
You know, Kobe had the great quote of um I go out there and I try to go out there and I try to play every game because it could be somebody's first time coming to see me.
Yeah,
And I feel like there's not a lot of people like that in the league. I feel like Cade is one of them that is, I want to play and I want to be the best at every single opportunity. And the guy just could not go.
still there.
Sorry. Big news. Some really big news coming out of the NFL that we'll get into.
Okay.
But I mean, Cade Cade is one of those guys that it just that it just really stinks. That rule just really stinks for somebody like him. And I mean, you're looking at guys like Jokic, SGA, who's the other big one? Wemby, who, Wemby wasn't going to win an MVP or anything, but were in those considerations. They were on the cusp of not even being talked about. I mean, you get into that 65 game rule. If SGA Jokic, if SGA and Jokic don't make that threshold and
Hmm.
become, again, I feel like they're going to go back and forth with MVP for the next 3 years. It's going to be them neck and neck against each other with Wemby coming up in between that. You're looking at somebody like Jalen Brunson potentially winning MVP, Jalen Brown, and you have to
I
sit there and question the
I don't question
legitimacy of the
I don't question
MVP.
Jalen Brown. I don't question that one, especially this year, considering the fact that what he was able to do before Jason Tatum came back, and where Boston was, and where Boston was projected to finish because of injuries and then retooling because of that.
Very, very true. But would you sit there and say that Jalen Brown has had a better year than Shea?
It all depends on it all depends on how you're looking at it. Are you looking at it from a standpoint of the of But this also gets into the discussion like, what does it mean to be the most valuable player?
That's very true. It breaks it down to a very simple question.
Like,
Because like
like I
I throw out somebody like Shea because that's an easy one. He has the personal stats, the the game by game stats and everything, and they're the number one team in the league.
right.
Take them off that team, they're not the number one team in the league, but they're still very good. You take Jalen Brown off of the Celtics, they're probably not making the playoffs. It gets into that question.
Well, especially this year before Jason Tatum got back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But again, that's one of those where it's like, eh, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, we talked about the names before about what's who's going to be out there. The two names I keep seeing are Austin Brown, which is an agent, and Matt Moore, which is the former uh director of college scouting, I believe, and also the like uh videographer for the Bulls. Those are the two names that I keep reading about, which um we have to see where that goes, but I know it's not necessarily the most sexiest picks because I know people want Bob Myers and Sam Presti. Those two names are not coming here. They're not.
No, because this is a desirable job, but not super desirable.
Yeah, I mean it's you still have people that don't trust ownership, and and,
Which
and
is fair.
and when I hear that, I just want to. What do you mean by that? Are you talking about not paying the luxury tax?
It, we've talked about this before. It's just I don't have trust in them, in the luxury tax, in just being able to get the right coach, the right GM to be able to get the right team. Because again, we've talked outside of the Bulls Jordan era, they have not been a very good basketball organization.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think if you go from, let's say, 2003 to 2008 or 2008, that had a good 5 year window where they were, anywhere between the fourth and sixth seed in the East. But, that John Paxson led team, um, they just didn't make the necessary moves to get that star level, right? And that kind of goes with like, okay, you got all these assets, get all these young guys. You had Luol Deng, Kirk Heinrich, Ben Gordon, but yet you didn't want to trade any of them to go get the best big man at the time, which was Pau Gasol.
Well, they got him just 10 years too late.
You got him 10 years too late.
Um, but I mean, again, you say those mid to late 2000s years. That was also when the Eastern Conference was the Eastern Conference, when the East was very bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So
it's there's just I again I kind of agree with it because like there's just not a lot of trust that the Bulls ownership are going to be able to make the right decision, which I completely understand. I would love for that narrative to change. I just do understand where that hesitancy and question is coming from.
I guess here's my question: is this if let's say the Bulls do hire Bob Myers for shits and giggles, and it doesn't work out, management ownership is going to get killed for it not working out.
Which is something that always happens.
Ownership is going to get killed for if it's Austin Brown or especially if it's Matt Lloyd because that's them going with somebody who's familiar with the organization.
Yeah.
But to be fair, he hasn't been with the organizations, for the past 12, 15 years. And he's been with another organization that has drafted, developed, and traded for really good talent. So he can all and he developed a nice analytical kind of structure, with the Bulls that was able to help out with certain things.
And sometimes it takes for somebody to leave and see what other teams and other uh see what other teams and what other organizations do to see if they can um to see how they're able to progress. And he went and saw that progression and development could happen in different ways, and maybe he can bring that same approach and same idea back to Chicago if he was to be the one to hired. I just I just hope whoever the next one that is hired again has a bit of a plan going forward and has uh has means to be able to do it.
Right. Right.
And and again has the stones to go out there and maybe do something a little bold, but also if it works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, admit it's wrong and try to fix it right away instead of waiting and seeing if, hey, maybe it'll work out.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's sometimes it's easier to just cut loose and say, hey, that was a bad decision. We're going to try to see what we can do to fix it.
Now, I will encourage Bulls fans with this, and you can tell me to go to hell all you want. That's fine. I'm a big boy. Try to have an open mind when it comes to the hire. Try. Just try. Because let's say they hire Matt Lloyd and it works out. Guess what? The Bulls are winning games, the Bulls are doing whatever. Maybe they are competing for championships. But at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want this team to be competitive, we want this team to win championships, win games, all the good stuff.
Bring that same feel like those 90s Bulls
Yeah,
were,
yeah.
you know.
Don't let's look at it this way. Jerry Krause inherited Michael Jordan, but Jerry Krause also put a really good team around Michael Jordan.
He inherited Michael Jordan, but he got him Scottie Pippen.
Got him Scottie Pippen, got him Horace Grant, traded his best friend for a guy in the middle and Bill Cartwright. Got him John Paxson, B.J. Armstrong, got him
Uh,
Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc. Uh,
he helped build those teams.
yeah,
He
and
inherited the best piece, but was able to build the team around him,
yeah,
which
and
is an art in itself.
and then on top of that, you you hired a coach that got you from point C to the rest of the alphabet.
Yeah. I mean,
Six.
well, you got extremely lucky getting Phil Jackson,
I
you
mean,
know.
he was already on the staff,
Yeah.
so it worked out.
You got the star player and the coach, and then you built the team. There's many different ways to skin a cat, you can
Yeah,
say.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. It looks like the Hornets beat the Heat in the play-in tournament of the 7-8.
Yes, the Hornets won by one.
Yeah, so very interesting. Um, you said that there was some. I just saw what you saw as far as breaking news is concerned. So you want to get to that? Go ahead.
Yeah, breaking news from I believe it was Ian Rappaport. Yes, it was Ian Rappaport saying that the New York Football Giants and Dexter Lawrence have come to an impasse on the future of uh, what would be a contract extension. Um, and he's gone out and said we would love to have Dexter, we would love to keep him here, but um, how did he say it exactly? Um, they have the Giants have engaged with teams on a potential trade, and that will continue. It should come ahead before the draft in 9 days, and um, the Giants GM Joe Schoen said, I'll echo what coach said last week. We'd like Dexter to be here. And at some point, we'll come to a resolution here. Whatever that may be, we'll see. So, based on what was being said, it really looks like Dexter Lawrence's time in New York is, again, it's looking like it could be coming to an end with him in New York. Um, so with that being said, I'll pose this question to you. If it
If,
came down to it,
if it came down to the Bears trading the 25th overall pick for Dexter Lawrence, my answer is yes.
fair enough. Okay.
Okay.
We're on the same chord. I'm
Yes.
happy with that.
Yes. Yes. I know that there are people out there that are like, oh my God, he doesn't fit within the scheme of Dennis Allen because he wants certain kind of defensive tackles. This drives me up a wall when it comes to I don't give a damn what sport it is. Fuck your scheme.
I agree with that. I agree with that to a very high extent. Um, there
Go get a
there's two
football player.
there's two caveats to that rule. One, if you can get one of the best players at that position, you go and get one of the best players at that position. And Dexter Lawrence is a top three defensive tackle in the NFL today, and is still going to be that good for at least the next 2 to 3 years. And two, if it doesn't fit in what doesn't fit in Dennis Allen's scheme, they went and addressed those issues in the offseason with free agency. They went out and got younger. They went out and got faster. They were able to fit more of his scheme the way that he wanted to. So they have done what they can to help around that defensive tackle position to fit the scheme. It doesn't matter if Dexter Lawrence isn't that fast. He's still going to do what you want him to do. He's going to plug up the middle on runs, going to help fix one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL, and he's also a great pass rusher. He will get to the quarterback. He will help out whoever you have on both ends.
Which is what the Bears need. The Bears need that. So once again, I understand that everyone has this certain scheme this mythical scheme that they want everybody to be in. I will say this again, and I'm going to have to flag this in the video when it gets uploaded for language. Fuck your scheme. Go get the player.
Which is
Dexter,
also, go ahead,
I'll say Dexter Lawrence is what I like to call a multiplier. The Bears don't have multipliers.
not many.
Not many. Go get
And
them.
and he is one of the biggest at his position, arguably just in the front seven.
Go get it and figure it out. You go get them, and then you tell Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson, figure it out.
And again, I still think you get a guy like Dexter Lawrence, Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen, they're gonna sit there and go, oh yeah, oh yeah, here's a dude.
And guess who's automatically better if you go get Dexter Lawrence?
That front seven
Yes, Javon Dexter is better. Montez Sweat, who you're paying like a number one pass rusher, will
is
be
better.
better.
Austin
Austin
Booker,
Booker will be better.
better.
Go get the dude. Forget your scheme. Go get the dude.
Which is why I find it so interesting that in a lot of mocks that I see with the 25th pick, the Bears taking an offensive tackle.
I've seen that, and I've actually been on board with that.
I have I'm not opposed to it, but it just kind of makes me question it because granted, I do know we've had this talk that the left tackle position is up in the air and a giant question as of right now because of the injury to Theo Benedict. And you have said that you're not particularly thrilled with the room that they have right now, and you would love to see them go get somebody else.
Yes.
I have said that I believe that what they have now could work. It won't be the best, but it could work. And if we were to go out and get an offensive tackle at 25, I just question that we could have used that pick to help bolster something with a little more need than
Oh, that's a
offensive
need.
tackle.
That's a need. That's a need.
The only way that you have it be a need is if you're able to go out and get a Trent Williams type where you have your guy for the next 15 years. Because
That that's
I
a
truly
need.
believe I truly believe Theo Benedict could be that long term 10-year starter.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we got. All the time we have for How Dead Sports. No. No. Theo Benedict is okay. He's all right. But they don't, as of right now, they don't have at least in my opinion, they don't have a really good left tackle. Braxton Jones is okay. Theo Benedict was decent. Karan Armagaji sucks.
Yeah, yeah.
So if there's a guy there at 25, let's say they don't get Dexter Lawrence, that there's a guy there at 25, you take him and figure it out.
Again, I think I would much rather much rather see them go if they keep it, I'd much rather see them go safety or um actually that's probably the only thing that I would love to go see them get because your interior again, this is if we do not trade for Dexter Lawrence with that 25th pick, there is not an interior defensive lineman that is worth that pick that I have seen. And it I guess if it's there, take that shot. It's just not something that I would prefer them do.
Here, if me personally, if I can get away with trading Dexter Lawrence or trading for Dexter Lawrence, all I have to do is give up one of my seconds and a couple of thirds for next year. Okay, do it. That's fine. But you're gonna have to give up a number, probably a first and a third for him, whatever. Which is why, in a way, it kind of sucks that the Bears didn't get those comp picks just because it would have gave you extra assets to make moves like this. So for me, it's just kind of like, all right, well, that's kind of, it is what it is. But in an ideal world, I'm all about trading back and getting more assets. You know, like that's always how I've been in terms of drafts. Trade back, like unless there's a dude that you want, then trade up, but gather as many assets as you can.
Well, that's been Ryan Pohl's MO pretty much since he has been GM. When the only time that he really hasn't traded back much, I believe was last year, and he still traded back one time.
Yeah,
Um, because like he did it the most that first year because we were so hamstrung for picks. I think he traded back 3 times in his first draft, but he was
yeah.
able to get so many assets for it
I think the only player left from that draft is Kyler Gordon
from his first draft.
from his first draft. The only player is left is Kyler Gordon.
Well, he's going into what did I say? His fifth draft. So that would have been what, 21? Yeah.
Yeah, 21, 22.
Yeah. Because the only other one that would have had a chance would have been Brisker, but he left.
Yeah.
But um I was doing some light reading the other day of his former first round draft picks, and they have done an exceptional job, or Ryan Poles has done a very exceptional job drafting in the first round. It's been
Round three.
it's been just under his production that he gets for the third round. The first round of the draft has been some of the top players on the team for a long time. I mean, we
Well,
go we go back to last year. We get Colson Loveland, who ended the year leading the team in receiving yards when the first 8 weeks the guy was barely targeted outside of Cincinnati. Year before that, we obviously get Caleb Williams and Romo Dunze, who, well, Caleb Williams, that speaks for itself. And Romo Dunze is still a very, very good wide receiver. The year before that, um, what was the year before that? That was the Bryce Young draft. Who did we get that year?
well, if that was the Bryce Young draft was the Darnell Wright.
Darnell Darnell Wright. Shaky at the beginning. Last year turned to an all pro. It may have taken some time for some of the guys that he's gotten, but they have been very, very good draft picks. And I and this kind of goes back to that Bulls conversation where you don't have a lot of that trust in uh management and ownership,
Mhm.
whereas the Bears, especially as of the last couple of recent years, you have trust in them now. If the Bears go out and make an interesting make an interesting draft pick with that 25th pick that kind of goes that you kind of sit back and go, I don't know about that one. You sit there and give the benefit of the doubt.
Is it a benefit of doubt to Ryan Poles or is it a benefit of doubt to Ben Johnson and the coaching staff?
Yes. My simple answer to that is yes. I think
Okay.
it's both. I think it's both. I believe Ryan Poles has done enough where he's uh, earned the benefit of the doubt with that. And part of that is also because he went out and he was able to get Ben Johnson. Granted, Ben wanted to come here, but if they're going to sit down and make an agreement on a pick, you say, let's see how it works out. You go, okay, let's make it happen. Kind of kind of what happened last year. When the Bears drafted Colson Loveland, you sit back and you went, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Because the consensus number one tight end was Tyler Warren.
Yep.
And Colson Loveland came out, and even after the slow start, they were kind of neck and neck by the end of the year. It again, just it's one of those where you go, okay, you've earned the benefit of the doubt. Let's see how it all plays out. And you kind of go from there. Um, it's 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 one of those that you hope it all works out, and again, you let it happen.
Right.
Um, so the question that I wanted to pose because I saw it, thought it was interesting, and I have my own opinion on it, but I'd love to hear yours. Um, I saw a question posed that uh what if Caleb Williams, okay, how do I pick, how did they phrase it? Um it was if Caleb Williams' best career outlook turns out to be the same career as like a Russell Wilson, would you be happy with it?
Isn't that the same question I posed to you the other day?
Is it not?
It is the same question that I posed to you the other day.
Oh man. Shit. Oh my goodness. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
it's been one of those weeks for you, huh?
Oh yeah. I'm over it. I'm over it.
But to answer your question, from where he was drafted, my answer is no.
That's also my thought.
For
I
you
would hate to see it.
for you to be drafted number one and be a generational talent, you need your numbers and your career needs to be better than Russell Wilson. If you have a Russell Wilson type career where you're, I mean, because let's be realistic. I mean, a large portion of that career was kind of led by that Legion of Boom defense in Seattle. But
Yeah.
if he has a Russell Wilson type career, that's not good for the Bears. That's not good. For for him to be a quote unquote coming in as a generational talent, that's not good.
No, because you'd want to see more. You would,
Correct.
even if it came down to say again, if you win the one Super Bowl, you would love to be it more on the Matthew Stafford type of one Super Bowl instead of the Russell Wilson one Super Bowl. It's just
But
it's
here's
too different.
now, if the question is posed, would you rather have if Caleb Williams turn out to have a Aaron Rodgers type career? Your answer would be yes, because
Yeah.
that dude has multiple MVPs and was one of the top three quarterbacks in the league for the long for a long period of time.
He was in the conversation with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady,
Right.
which again would be that would be again much different. It comes down to the one key thing being the one Super Bowl, but just a very different career all around.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I just want to see a winner.
I think we all do. I think we all do. I think
I've
we all
never
do.
seen the Bears be good consistently.
I've seen. I mean, I was five when the Bears won a Super Bowl. I was 25 when the Bears went to the Super Bowl last. So yeah,
I was 5 when they went to the Super Bowl. Actually 6.
yeah. So we'll see. Anything else?
No, I got nothing.
All
I
right.
got nothing now.
Well, yeah. So like and subscribe um, to our page. Leave a comment as well. Be gentle. Actually, don't be gentle. We'll take constructive criticism. But like and subscribe to the page. That's Austin. I'm Paul. Peace out.
See ya.